welcome to my channel. I am so excited today because this is officially my first baking video on my channel, and I thought I would just start with a classic recipe, which would be chocolate chip cookies. Now, I cannot take credit for this recipe. It is actually from a huge YouTuber, Rosanna Pansino. If you watch any baking videos, I know you've heard of her before, but these chocolate chip cookies are so good. I used to, when I made chocolate chip cookies, I would just find a random recipe every time and make them, and you know, all chocolate chip cookies are good. You're not gonna really find a bad one per se, but this one is so good that anytime I wanna make chocolate chip cookies, this is the recipe I use. So all recipe credit goes to her, but I would like to share it with you guys just in case you haven't seen it. So let's get started. The ingredients for this recipe is flour, baking soda, salt, salted butter, granulated sugar, light brown sugar, vanilla extract, 2 large eggs, and chocolate chips. So the first thing I do is I measure out 2.5 cups all-purpose flour. And before I actually started doing the flour, I preheated the oven to 375. So we're getting the oven preheated, and I'm just measuring out 2.5 cups all-purpose flour, and I have a separate bowl that I'm going to mix the dry ingredients in, and then put that aside, and then we will get that in just a little bit. And the next ingredient that I'm going to get is my baking soda, and for this I need 2 teaspoons. After measuring my baking soda, now I need my salt, and so I need 1 teaspoon of salt. And after I measured this, like I said, I'm going to put it all together. Spit a little bit extra in there, but it was fine. But now I'm just going to take my whisk and mix it all together, and we are just going to put this bowl to the side, and we will get it in just a little bit. Now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on our wet ingredients. So the first thing I'm going to do is measure my sugar, and for that I need 3/4 of a cup. You don't need a KitchenAid mixer obviously to make these, but I got this earlier this year and I just love it so much, and so I like using it. So I measured my sugar, and I'm going to go ahead and pour that in the bowl. And the next thing I'm going to measure out is my light brown sugar, and I also need 3/4 cup. Now I do think the light brown sugar makes the cookies just like extra yummy, so I definitely make sure to pack it down to make sure I get that 3/4 cup. Now it's time for my butter. Now a little trick for this is the butter is supposed to be room temperature, but if you don't set your butter out ahead of time, or you're making this recipe, like I said, and you haven't set your butter out ahead of time, a trick I like to do is I actually put it in the microwave for like 10 seconds. I don't melt it, but I do just enough that it does get softened. And as you can see, I'm on to vanilla now, and I need 1 teaspoon. So that is all the ingredients that I'm going to put in there, and I'm just putting on my paddle on my mixer, and I need to mix this up until it gets light and fluffy looking. So as you can see, I lift it up, and I like to get another spoon and scrape the sides down and scrape the paddle and just make sure that all those ingredients get mixed together really well. Now the next part of our recipe is to add the 2 eggs. In the original recipe, you are supposed to add 1 egg and then mix it together and then add the next one, but I did forget to do that, and so you can see I just put 2 at the same time. It did not mess the cookies up at all, but if you did want to follow the recipe to a T, like I said, you would add 1 egg, mix it together, and then add the second egg. But I put my 2 eggs in, and I'm just mixing the batter until it's fully incorporated. Now we are going to pull back out our dry ingredients that we already mixed together, and the key to this is just to dump a little bit at a time. You don't want to dump the whole bowl in, so I just like to shake a little bit in, and I mix it all up till it's fully incorporated, and then you'll see in just a couple seconds once it's mixed, I pour a little bit in, mix it up. So I just keep doing that till I don't have any more dry ingredients left in the bowl. Now that I'm done pouring in my dry ingredients, I take that spoon and I knock the batter off of my paddle and off the side of the bowl just to make sure that everything is fully incorporated. And it's super yummy. I like to use parchment paper, so I'm gonna pull the parchment paper off, put it on the sheet. I think it cooks it really evenly and the cookies don't get stuck to the parchment paper. And our last step for these cookies is to fold in the chocolate chips. You can use whatever chocolate chips you like, semi-sweet, milk chocolate. Sometimes if I have both on hand, I'll even mix the two. So now I have my chocolate chips and I'm gonna just pour those in, and I'm gonna use my spoon and fold them in. Something you don't wanna do is use your mixer unless you want chopped up chocolate chips, which would probably be really good. But for this recipe, I'm just gonna fold them in with my spoon. I don't actually have a cookie scoop, which with as many cookies as I make, I should probably get one, but I like to just use 2 spoons. One is a little bit smaller than the other one, and I just use both spoons to get the right amount of dough, and then I use the second spoon to kind of scrape it off the first spoon. So, like I said, probably should invest in a cookie scoop, but this works for me, so we'll just keep rolling with it. This recipe, depending on, I think these cookies are a little bit bigger than the original recipe calls for, but the original recipe calls for 36 cookies. I'm just making 12 today because it's just my husband and I at home, and we definitely don't need 36 cookies. But what I like to do is just bake like 1 sheet of cookies and then just put foil or saran wrap over your bowl and put it in the fridge, and that way later on in the week you can, you know, cook more or bake more cookies and you already have the dough already made. So that is the dough that I have left, and the cookies are in the oven at 375 for, the recipe calls for 7 to 9 minutes. I put them in for 8, and just to make sure that they are where they're supposed to be, and they look great. They got, the bottom of them are golden and the sides of them are golden, and something I love so much about these cookies are they're crispy and chewy. So the outside has a really nice crispy texture to it, but the inside is really chewy. So if you like your cookies crispy or if you like them chewy, you're gonna love this recipe. They are so yummy, and I did make them a tad big, but the nice thing is, like you can see, is I can easily just break it off with my spatula and get 12 yummy cookies. So I have pulled the cookies out of the oven. They have cooled on the baking sheet for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now I have put them on a plate with a glass of milk, and I'm gonna enjoy some fresh chocolate chip cookies. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun making it. Like I said, this is my first baking video on this channel, and I have so many more ideas and so many more recipes that I want to share with you. So I hope you liked it, and I will see you next time. Bye!